Have you ever found yourself in workplace or maybe a group dynamic where it just feels like you're completely trapped? You know exactly the feeling I'm talking about. You're basically forced to choose between becoming a ruthless backstabber just to survive or staying the naive, easy target who constantly gets taken advantage of. It's an exhausting, honestly terrifying dilemma. But what if I told you there's actually a third option? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into this really fascinating concept together: strategic decency. Think of this as your ultimate survival playbook. It's basically the tactical antidote to a hostile environment. You see, the goal here isn't to become like the toxic people around you, but absolutely not to remain naive about them either. You need decency, for sure, but you need it paired with a razor-sharp strategy. So here's our playbook for today. We'll look at the strategic decency framework, move into observation and emotional control, build up your defensive armor, practice some strategic accountability, and finally, talk about protecting your inner character. Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the strategic decency framework. So, the absolute first rule in a hostile environment is this: start small, not loud. Big, flashy moves, they just attract resistance. If you come marching in announcing these grand plans, you literally put a giant target right on your back. Instead, you've got to move forward through small steps with calculated risks. Why? Well, small steps are incredibly useful. They let you safely test people's reactions, understand the hidden office politics without, stepping on a landmine, reduce your exposure, carefully build with your confidence, and most importantly, you avoid creating unnecessary enemies. The key takeaway? Never reveal your full plan too early, and definitely don't depend on people before they've actually proven their reliability. Now we have to talk about a massive difference here: the difference between being good and just being gullible. Listen, kindness without boundaries, that just becomes weakness. People will walk all over you. But on the flip side, boundaries without kindness just becomes aggression, and then you just look like another toxic player in the game. The sweet spot is right in the middle. You want to be respectful, calm, professional, and fair, but simultaneously, you absolutely must be observant, cautious, and relentlessly boundaried. Moving on to Section 2, observation and emotional control. This is where your inner detective comes out. You need to actively study people's nature and their patterns of behavior. Think of this as your rapid-fire mapping checklist to figure out who you're dealing with. We all know someone like this, right? Ask yourself, who gossips? Who always manages to take credit for the team wins? Who constantly changes their stories depending on who else is in the room? Who acts like your absolute best friend behind closed doors, but then gets super cold or hostile in public? Who thrives on creating confusion? And who systematically avoids accountability? Map this out in your head. And really studying these behaviors leads to a pretty profound realization. It's simply this: once you understand patterns, you completely stop being surprised. Seriously, when you stop expecting loyalty from disloyal people, it is truly amazing how much peace and clarity you get back. You stop getting hurt when the office gossip gossips about you because, well, that's just their pattern. You've already factored it into your strategy. Here's the thing. Backstabbers often win by making you react badly. They want to provoke you so that you lose your temper, maybe say something wrong, or just look unstable to everyone else, all while they get to sit back and appear completely innocent. So your absolute greatest strength? It's your emotional control. Whenever you feel your blood boiling, just hit pause and ask yourself, is this a real threat or are they just trying to pull me into a reaction? Let your calmness become your ultimate protection. Whatever you do, don't take the bait. All right, Section 3, building your defensive armor. In untrustworthy environments, memory just doesn't cut it. You must document absolutely everything. Keep a really meticulous record. Note down decisions, track commitments, save those key emails and approvals. Always document task ownership so there's zero confusion about who dropped the ball later on. And keep a solid log of timelines and important conversations. Now, you might be wondering, how do I do all this without looking totally paranoid? It's actually really simple. Right after a verbal discussion, just send a short, highly professional written follow-up. In fact, memorize this exact script. As discussed, I'll proceed with X by Friday and Y is owned by Z. Boom, that's it. It isn't aggressive, it isn't passive-aggressive either. It is pure, simple protection. It puts reality firmly on the record. And alongside that documentation, you've got to build what we call silent credibility. When everyone else is running around playing politics, your work needs to speak clearly for itself. Focus on delivering consistently, being perfectly reliable, and just avoiding the unnecessary drama. Because over time, serious people always notice who creates actual value and who just creates noise. In a toxic environment, your undeniable competence literally becomes your armor. Let's look at Section 4, practicing strategic accountability. You hear people say all the time that you should give toxic people a taste of their own medicine. Well, actually, scratch that. We need to refine that idea a bit. You do not become dishonest just because others are dishonest. You don't stoop to their level and backstab. Instead, you practice strategic accountability. This means you calmly expose contradictions, clarify the facts, and just let the consequences of someone's actions reach them naturally. It's time to stop protecting toxic people from their own behavior. Let's look at how this actually plays out in real life. Instead of attacking someone who, say, changed their story to make you look bad, use this tactful script. Just to clarify, last week the decision was X. Today it seems to have changed to Y. Can we align on the final direction? You just ask this calmly, maybe in a meeting or a shared email thread, and wow, that is powerful. You aren't seeking revenge, you're just wielding controlled truth. Finally, Section 5, protecting your inner character. A bad environment can slowly, almost invisibly, make you bitter. You have to actively guard against that slow creep of bitterness. Do not let this place make you permanently paranoid. You have to fight the urge to become deeply cynical or constantly reactive. Protect your energy so you don't become emotionally exhausted. And above all, do not become permanently distrustful of everyone you meet. Be incredibly careful not to let toxic people permanently shape your fundamental personality. If you take away just one single thing from this explainer today, let it be this core operating principle. In a non-cooperating environment, I will move with caution, act with decency, document reality, understand people's patterns, take calculated risks, and respond at the right time with facts, firmness, and strategy. That right there, that is the mature path. That is exactly how you win. So, to bring this all together and summarize what we've covered, when you find yourself surrounded by backstabbers, you need to rely on these 4 pillars. Number 1, patience. Do not rush into action. Number 2, awareness. Continuously study the people around you. Number 3, boundaries. Relentlessly protect yourself and your work. And number 4, strategy. Act only at the precise right time. Which brings us to our final thought. Do not fight dirty. Fight clearly. You absolutely must remain decent enough to keep your dignity, but sharp enough to ensure you are never, ever used. So the next time you walk into a toxic room, I want you to ask yourself, will you let them change your character, or will you use strategy to change the game? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and keep learning.